I'm Dan.
And I'm Simon.
And this is the Wikicast, a podcast where Wikipedia takes us to a random article and we talk about what we find. Simon, what are we talking about this week?
This week, Dan, I am delighted to announce that we are talking about short music for short people.
No way.
I know, right?
This is extraordinary.
I said before we started recording that this may be the single best article I have ever randomized on.
Yeah, I think you're totally right.
Let me tell you all about it, though, Dan, because Short Music for Short People is a 1999 compilation album released on the Fat Wreck Chords record label. It features 101 bands playing songs averaging approximately 30 seconds in length.
As a concept, I love that.
Right? It's this. The whole album has 100. Sorry, how many tracks? It's not 100 more because there's a few repeat artists. 99 tracks, and it lasts 49 minutes.
Wow.
Just if it's like a taster menu of music. If you don't like something, don't worry, it's going to be over in another 20 seconds.
Yeah.
But some of these tracks are astonishing. Like, so with some of the band names are great. Like I do appreciate a good band name, and some of these just going down here, we've got some ones that are sort of, you know, they sound like regular bands, like Teen Idols or the Ataris, or wow, Blink-182 and Green Day are on here. But then also you've got stuff like Citizen Fish, Aero Bitch, 59 Times the Pain, 88 Fingers Louie. There's some great ones. 20%, H2O, The Muffs, Satanic Surfers, Wizzo.
Wizzo?
Yeah, no, not Lizzo, Wizzo, Wizo.
That still rings a bell. Some distant bell is sort of chiming in my head. Why is that?
They do have an article. It's a German punk rock band from Sindelfingen in 1985. Fun punk. I don't know. Must admit, I've never really heard of them.
They're also an agency, Wizzo and Co.
Oh, but Wizzo. Oh no, beg your pardon. There's actually 101 tracks, I think, on this album, including the one at the bottom here is Caustic Soda with "Welcome to Dumpsville," Population U.
Nice, nice.
It's just these are great. This is. I mean, it's very very simple in that it's this Fat Wreck Chords album that's just. There's just really short songs. They've got really weird titles, like Dillinger 4 with "Farts Are Jazz to Arseholes."
Amazing. I mean, this is exactly how I wanted to start my Monday morning.
Yeah, we're recording this at 9 o'clock on a Monday morning just because we had two previous slots that we sorted out last week, and then both of them something came up, so we are on our third time's the charm.
Yeah, and what a charm.
And what a charm with ACAB, parentheses, all comic heroes are fascist pigs by Terror Grouper.
Fantastic.
What the hell? Or with The Circle Jerks with Deny Everything, parentheses, Keith Morris, Roger Rogerson from Group Sex.
I mean...
Adrenaline OD with Your Kung Fu is Old and Now You Must Die.
I love this.
White Flag with Rage Against the Machine are capitalist phonies.
So, out of curiosity, I've pulled up the album because I want to have a look at some of these titles myself. Okay, I've got several thoughts here. Firstly, the album artwork is extraordinary.
Yeah, can you describe the album artwork?
It's sort of done... It looks like So there is a scantily clad aeronaut on a nondescript planet. She's got a big...
Astronaut.
Yeah, sure. Cosmonaut.
She's not in a balloon, Dan.
Cosmonaut.
Yeah, cosmonaut is actually the more accurate term because cosmonaut actually means spaceman, whereas astronaut means starman, technically. So this would be more accurately a cosmonaut.
She's got a big
set of...
No, I was going to say the helmet.
Aliens with her.
Yeah, there you go, yeah. Yeah, so she's dancing on a planet with some little green men. There's a record player playing. There's a UFO in the background. And then in bright sort of orange and white text is sort of...
But like B-movie font.
Yeah,
it's like what you'd see above a B-movie.
Short music for short people. Fat Wreck Chords presents. Amazing.
You know what it looks like? It looks like a B-movie version of the artwork for the Star Wars disco version of the theme song.
Oh, yeah. Galactic Funk.
It looks it's that kind of style. But I have noticed that Fat Wreck Chords have also did other albums. So, I see. So it's a band, and then they did... Right, so the previous album was Life in the Fat Lane.
Nice.
And then the next album was Live Fat, Die Young. So, short music for short people was a bit of a detour from their typical fare, apparently. Just being like really fat shaming.
I'm still going through these titles. I think they're absolutely brilliant.
This is great. It's such a snapshot. So when was this released? It was released in 1999. So this is like that proper kind of like punk. That was sort of like when Nirvana was like at the peak of their powers. Or was that a little bit before? Well, late 90s, early 2000s was sort of like pop punk, wasn't it? Like, and this is it in concentrated form.
Can you read the name of the title, those involved, the band, and the length of time for entry number 48, please?
Sure. At number 48, we got Screeching Weasel with Dirty Needles, parentheses, Ben Weasel from Television City Dream.
Amazing.
27 seconds.
Ben Weasel. That's the most brilliant name I've ever heard.
His real name is Benjamin Foster. Of course you'd rather be known as Ben Weasel.
Screeching Weasel.
God, Blatty, Human Egg by Sick of It All.
Human Egg.
I wonder what these people are doing now. 23 years later, what are the members of the Lunar Chicks doing? Or 10-Foot Pole? Or The Muffs?
The Muffs. With Pimmel.
There's so little else to say about this other than just reading out the article, but it's wonderful. This is like a time, 1999, I feel like, concentrated into an album. It's just really funny.
You've got the band H2O with the hit single, Mr. Brett, please put your gun down. Oh no, please put down your gun.
They really watered down their sound for the album.
Dun, 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 dun. Well, this is wonderful.
Oh, and dwarves. There's a little flag trilogy going on in the middle, Dan. I don't know if you noticed this. We've got Spray Paint, Rage Against the Machine and Capitalist Phonies, and Bring It to an End, all by Black Flag, White Flag, and Anti-Flag.
Wow.
One after the other.
The Agnostic Front with Traitor.
But it's how Green Day put together, and it is the Green Day, put together a song called The Ballad of Wilhelm Fink.
Right.
Have I heard of this?
That does ring bells as well. Green Day.
Wow. You know, Dan, I'm actually, this is the testament to how much this article has grabbed our attention, because we haven't spoken in a little while, and so much has happened over the past month.
Yeah, there's been a lot going on, hasn't there?
I mean, just last night, you were, and I haven't actually asked you how this went yet, but you were the soloist for a concert in Exmouth.
I was.
How did that go?
I think it was really good. I was really pleased. I was singing in a performance of Stainer's The Crucifixion, which is a riot. I'm doing it again next weekend with the RSCM at Buckfast Abbey.
Ah, nice.
Royal School of Church Music, which will be very fun. But it was nice to sort of give it an outing this time and do it with Chapel, which is the first choir I ever did it with years ago. And in fact, that church, I think I hadn't been back in that church since 2016.
Oh, blimey.
So it was amazing to go back, and instead of being singing in the choir, I was, sort of out in front of it with Ridley, one of the basses from the Chapel Choir, who's got a fantastic voice, and we had an absolute riot of a time doing that, and then went to an extraordinary after party that I didn't linger at because I was quite tired, and we thought we sort of didn't want to be silly, and I knew of course that we had the podcast to record at 9, so I was very sensible and only had a couple of beers.
He's grown up.
Yeah,
Our boy's all grown up and adult.
He's grown up. Ever since I turned 25, I'm like a changed boy, man.
The two options were either be very light touch with it and come and completely refreshed in the morning, or steaming drunk, just really going hard.
Yeah.
Wake up for 9 o'clock and just do the podcast hammered.
There was a period of time where I was seriously considering getting absolutely battered. But I thought, actually, you know what? That's a bad idea on multiple counts. Not only do I have the podcast, but I have to spend the rest of the day revising for an exam I have tomorrow.
Oh, okay, yeah, fair enough. Fair enough then.
So that's you've made the right decision here.
And we also had we met up relatively recently in London, actually.
Oh yeah, I forgot we haven't spoken about this, have we?
Yeah, so I was in London last week. No, 2 weeks ago.
2 weeks ago.
For some book events. So I was doing a book talk in hang on, which one was it in London? It was Stanford's in London. And then I had another thing at the Natural History Museum, which was amazing with the RP Geeks. But in the middle, we met up for some drinks. And are we allowed to talk about what we got up to?
Probably not.
Yeah. Okay. Let's not.
But what we can say is that we were, as part of the sort of various antics that we did get up to in London. One of the fun things that we did is you were managed to be shown around Westminster Cathedral, which was great, by a dear friend and reader of the podcast, and it was a really, really lovely time. I think that's safe. That
we can get away with that much. Yeah. Yes. And I'd never been inside Westminster Cathedral before, and we were able to sort of see it from the elevated position, weren't we? So sort of the higher up bit. And yeah, that was a really cool experience. It was me, you, and our friend Hugo Wickman.
It was.
As well. He was able to come around.
Dear hugs.
That was great.
It was a lovely surprise. I didn't realise that you were in town because I'd messaged Hugo when I was heading in on the train. I was going in for a sort of conference meeting thing with the Cathedral Music Trust, which is incredibly on brand for me anyway. As I'm part of their sort of future leaders group, which was a really fascinating day actually. It was a collection.
I saw the picture that you put up of you with the group and everything. Is it Alexander Armstrong?
Yes, yeah, he's ambassador.
Who's the patron? And I was just sort of one of those times you look at a picture and go, yes. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, that's
like this is on brand.
It was a fantastic group, it was, I think there was about 16 of us in the group, 15, 16, ages spanning 18 to 29, 30. 30 is I think the sort of cut off. Mm-hmm. And we spent the day sort of trying to identify what the issues are with cathedrals and cathedral music, what we can try and do to make a change, how the trust can change its outlook and strategy to try and be as sort of as helpful as it can be. And all of these people, the 15 or 16 of us, we all come from totally different backgrounds. So, I'm in it, but there's somebody who's writing a PhD on the impact in sociology and the impact of church music in that. There are some, one of the countertenors from the Gesualdo Six is in the group. We've got a couple of organists, a couple of assistant directors of music, some directors of music. So I think somebody from Leeds Cathedral or something. And it's just a really wonderful spread of people. Very, very passionate and really, really wanting to sort of be the start of what will, I think, be a sort of sea change in the sort of the choral music, sacred cathedral music world. And so much of the work I'd done before, if you think back years ago now to the choral scholars of the Southwest Evensong, can you remember when we did this? I did this project.
It was you and Ed Dunn. Yes. Yeah.
So we did this thing and basically put together a virtual service of choral evensong, sung by various choral scholars from cathedrals around the southwest and the south of England, in support of the emergency fund that the Cathedral Music Trust was sort of championing as a result of lockdown, because obviously all the cathedrals and choirs had to stop singing, and it was a very sort of scary time. And I did that with them. But I'd never met any of the team, really. So it's great to have been invited to be part of this Future Leaders group and see people that I'd normally only seen on a sort of screen, over a Zoom call. So it was great. And the event was held at Southwark Cathedral, which is somewhere I've never been. And it was really, really gorgeous. I stuck my head in the building for a bit before I left. And
like the Kool-Aid man.
Yeah. So straight through the wall.
Boom! Oh, this is nice. It was wonderful to see you, and then it's just so much has happened over the past month. The thing that sticks in my mind from that trip was I played the Natural History Museum, which is a weird thing to say in itself. But with the RP Geeks, we did a one shot in the David Attenborough Theatre of doing it was a game that my friend Shamini Bundell came up with, where we're mixing genes together of different animals and role playing as these animals that gradually get more and more mutated, trying to overcome a scenario that they're put in, with the audience having involvement in terms of choosing which animals we're mutated into, but also rolling these enormous dice to determine how successful we are. And it was great. That was like, in a way, a life ambition that I never knew I had, if that makes sense. Like, the Natural History Museum has been such a huge part of my childhood. I remember going there as a kid so vividly and loving it and thinking of it as like the ultimate place for like, you know, like the science happy place kind of thing. And I just never imagine that I would be one day doing a live event there and sort of talking a bit about science and trying to be entertaining and also educational. And yeah, that was really, really wild. You know, if anybody who was a reader was there, I know Andy Hartley, our friend, was in the audience. I'm not sure if anybody else from the Wikicast readership was there, but I hope you enjoyed, and hopefully we'll be able to do it again at some other venues in the future.
Amazing.
But of course the other thing is I've been all over the place. I was on 3 separate trips last month. I was in London for a bit. I just got back from St Andrews and Edinburgh, which was a lovely place to visit. I've never been to St Andrews before. It was a very small town that's felt like a mix of Oxbridge and Exeter all in one, and then shrunk like in a small town. And then the big one was I was in all over Scandinavia. I went up to Trondheim on the train, and then on the way back, I checked in on the Swedish Wikicasters.
Fantastic.
Most of them, anyway. I checked in on Greta and Isabel, and Eric, of course, is in Alaska. I sort of had a catch up with them, and they showed me around Stockholm, which was fantastic city. I have to admit, I slightly fell in love over the whole trip. I slightly fell in love with Trondheim specifically, and Norway. I think of all the countries I visited was the one I think I liked the most. But Stockholm was great.
Yeah.
And I did people haven't seen it. I'll include a link in the show notes. There was a vlog of the trip. But hanging out with Wikicast hosts and guests, of course, was really fun.
Yeah. Including
in the evening, something which I didn't put in the vlog was we ended up watching the Swedish qualifiers for Eurovision.
No way.
Which was all in Swedish, of course.
Yeah.
It was me, Isabel, Greta, and some of the friends from Fridays for Futures, the Fridays for Future, the activism group that they have. And that was an experience. That was really, really quite something.
I bet it was. My goodness.
I'm not saying I would tune in again, but it was fun being there. You know when like you watch the right thing in the right place with the right people at the right time. Mm-hmm. And the other example I always think of is when I don't think you were there when I watched The World's End at the campus cinema, the Edgar Wright film.
Yes. And
it was exactly the right place to watch that film. And it was the right age and the right time and everything like that. And that was what it felt like watching the Swedish Eurovision qualifiers.
Amazing.
But gosh, I mean, it feels like we barely scratched the surface with everything that's been going on. But I fear it's probably actually time to move on, you know, Dan.
I think it might be.
It might be time to move on to your choral piece of the week.
And this will be my piece of the week. Drum roll, please. Okay, let me just find the album because it's a big long Latin name.
Sure.
Post-choir.
What we need is like Gregorian chant phone music.
And I've got to get it right because it's written by a former person of the Westminster Cathedral, and Peter will get really cross if I say it wrong.
When I look at you, is it that one?
Yeah, you got it.
It's gonna be a lovely day, and then you just loop it.
So, my choral piece of the week. I mentioned earlier that I had done. I was part of a production of Steiner's The Crucifixion, and that's not going to be something that's going to feature in my choral piece of the week.
Controversial.
This week, though, it is very good. So, if you'd like to have a listen, have a listen. We are rapidly approaching. The landing gear is it's just starting to come down on the plane to Holy Week and Easter, which is very exciting, and it's always an absolutely brilliant time in terms of sort of sacred music because there's just such brilliant music written, you know, right the way through Lent up until Easter, and there is a particular piece of music that I'm singing on, I believe, I think it's Maundy Thursday. I think. I could be wrong. Maybe it's Good Friday. Something. Anyway, in Easter week. And it features on an album called Vexilla Regis, a sequence of music from Palm Sunday to Holy Saturday. And it it's the album is featuring Westminster Cathedral Choir, and on said album, track number 10, there is Postquam Surrexit Dominus, which sort of loosely translates to After the Lord Has Risen. And I was told by the director of music at Buckfast Abbey that it really basically is it's a brilliant text, but it hasn't really been set to music at all. So a former director of music of Westminster Cathedral decided to do so, and it's absolutely amazing. It's the chant sort of tune, if you like, but with sort of added fruit and nut and sort of harmony, and it's just thrilling to sing and absolutely amazing to listen to. So I'm really, really looking forward to doing that. So if you'd like to have a listen, the link will be in the show notes as ever. Postquam Surrexit Dominus by Martin Baker, sung by Westminster Cathedral Choir, and it's wicked, and I'm really, really looking forward to it.
You know, it says something of the depth of music in this genre is not even the right word, really. I mean, in this field, that we've been doing this for 107 episodes, I think. And I know that we didn't do Dan's Choral Piece of the Week from the very beginning, but every single week there is something that is like a cast iron banger. There is something that you found, or that is just broadly known.
Yeah.
That is an amazing piece of music.
Yeah.
And it's just, I mean, but this is what happens, I suppose, when you have a musical form that's existed for a millennium.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, just keeps going. This well is never going to run dry, I don't think.
Never. And this is so interesting because I think this is probably one of the first times where I've sort of really actively featured something that's more in the sort of Catholic canon of music making, as opposed to a big sort of Victoriana Anglican thing. It's very. I mean, it is all chant, but with harmony. So you get a real flavour of what that sort of style of singing is like, because it's very different to sort of not non-chant. But yeah, I think it's great. It's really good.
The other thing, of course, is at the rate we release episodes, new music is being written faster than we are making the episodes.
I was going to say, this is true.
We are never going to run out because we are being vastly outpaced by the admittedly also kind of glacial pace that the music is being released. Well, Dan, we are in Critics' Corner, and I have a piece of media that I have, for some reason, just never got around to until now. And in a way, I'm kicking myself that I only just enjoyed it. Mm-hmm. And in another way, I'm actually quite glad that I stayed away. And that is, I read my first Terry Pratchett novel.
Nice.
Over the past month.
Discworld.
And yes, so specifically, I read The Colour of Magic.
Yeah,
which
great.
is the first in the Discworld series.
Yeah.
So how much have you read much Terry Pratchett?
I've definitely read The Colour of Magic. I don't know how far I got into the sort of series. And I remember vividly watching it was a BBC...
The David Jason adaptation.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Christopher Lee was Death, and Sean Astin, Samwise Gamgee was the tourist in it. And yeah, basically, so for those of you who perhaps don't know who I'm talking about, Terry Pratchett he unfortunately died a couple of years ago, a British novelist, and specifically a fantasy comedian, I suppose, is the best description. The stuff that he wrote was absurdist and is set in a fantasy universe that from the very first novel is so rich, but also so clearly taking the piss out of every other bit of fantasy ever written.
Yeah.
And it's just fantastic. It's a very unique book. I've not really read anything quite like it. I've read a lot of fantasy. I've read some comedy stuff. I suppose it is if Ursula Le Guin met Douglas Adams somewhere in the middle. That's definitely more on the Douglas Adams side. And it was basically my mum gave me The Colour of Magic for Christmas. And I've been meaning to get back into reading. I think we spoke about this before, but I've just really, really struggled to get into the habit of reading, and I hadn't finished a book in months. Mm-hmm. And this was my way of something light that I can enjoy and then get back into. And I absolutely demolished this in a couple of days because it was just so readable, and it's definitely got the bug back in me of now the next one I'm going to be reading is The New Silk Roads by Frankopan. But I would like to read more Pratchett in the future. So my review of it is it's great. It's really funny and it's really imaginative, and it like kind of flabbergasted me at several points. But I am glad that I hadn't read it before, because I think had I read it before, it would have been such a strong influence on my writing style. And my writing when I was a teenager, I think, was tending towards this kind of style anyway, that I think this would have absolutely pushed me over the edge.
Yeah.
There's an inside joke for some people who've read the book. Pushed me over the edge into writing in this sort of fantasy comedic style that I think is very easy to ape. So I'm glad that I actually didn't read it until now, but my word, is it so good. I'd honestly recommend this to basically everyone.
There's a really great description of it on the Wikipedia page for The Colour of Magic. It's the second sentence at the top of the page, and it says, Pratchett has described it as an attempt to do for the classical fantasy universe what Blazing Saddles did for Westerns.
Yeah, that is exactly
that's
it.
That's really sort of succinct, isn't it? And exactly what it does. There's also a brilliant reception. Dave Langford reviewed The Colour of Magic for White Dwarf, the magazine, episode 64, or edition 64, I should say, and stated that it's one of those horrible antisocial books which impel the reader to buttonhole friends and quote bits at them. My ceiling is covered with brown spots from when I tried to read Pratchett's jokes and drink beer at the same time. Only native sadism makes me recommend this disgraceful work.
Now, have you noticed, however, where he was writing that review?
White Dwarf is in the Warhammer magazine.
That is the Games Workshop magazine.
Yeah.
That's hilarious. Wow, I didn't know. Well, no, I knew that they used to do... it was a much broader publication at one point, but I didn't know they did reviews of fantasy books and stuff like that. Wow.
I used to get White Dwarf I used to pick it up quite regularly, just sort of flick through.
It's gone through peaks and troughs. It's cool. It's all right. It's pretty good at the moment. It's not as good as it used to be, but it's a very, very fun... actually, that's a sort of tangent here. Something which happened over the past week, was it last week? No, I think it was 2 weeks ago, was the first Golden Demon was held since 2019. So this is the national level painting competition. Specifically, this was the American one. This was Adepticon. Painting competition for people painting Games Workshop miniatures. And the pictures that have been released of the winners of the of the prizes, and this is probably going to go down as one of the greatest competitions in the history of the company, because everybody over lockdown worked on their models, and so there's like 3 years of backlog for people submitting stuff. And I will include a link in the show notes for people who might want to have a look at I'll also pop it to you now on Discord. There's pictures of all the first, second, and third places for all the categories, and they're just extraordinary. The Slayer sword in particular this year was an interesting, which is the best in show basically, is interesting because they basically picked something that was very simple. It's just a single lizard man model, but was done to perfection. I've never seen a smoother paint job in my life, I don't think. So hearing White Dwarf has just compelled me to mention this, because I'm actually going to do a live stream this week, I think, where I go through all the winners and sort of pick apart kind of perhaps why they are so good, where they've been converted, stuff I would like to learn from them. Because you could take any one of the pictures of one of the people on the podium and learn a huge amount of painting technique from it.
Yeah.
And learn what works and what doesn't. But that's my soapbox for Golden Demon, a personal pet project of mine. But anyway, yes, Colour of Magic, fantastic, really, really funny. I cannot wait to read some more of his stuff, to be honest. And now I may actually have to go and check out the adaptation that you mentioned.
Well, I was thinking about something that I'm just going to mention briefly, and I've probably said this already before. Certainly at the moment, I'm in the middle of a sort of an exam period, and law, and on top of all the sort of other music-y things and everything, means that I don't really have much time to watch sort of terrestrial television. Certainly, even Netflix, really not much. But I am and have been starting to rewatch, when I get a free moment, or get an early night, and I'm just sitting in bed with my laptop, rewatching House of Cards.
Oh, right, yeah. The English, sorry, the UK version or the US version?
The US version. It is just great. It's a great show. I mean, it's flawed, obviously, and the spacey thing is complicated, but it's brilliant, and the script is fantastic, and it's just gripping. And I think it's a wonderful thing.
Yeah, the whole thing with, because I got about 3-4 seasons in, and I think that was when the Kevin Spacey thing broke.
Yeah,
and it just soured it for me. Like, I know that you can separate out the art from the artist, and we've had this discussion several times on the podcast before, but it really just, I couldn't watch it and not think about it, basically.
Yeah.
Which is a shame, because, yeah, certainly the first 2 seasons are phenomenal. They're so good.
Yeah. But just as a sort of an aside, I think, rewatching that, it's one of those things that I often find myself going back and watching odd episodes of, similarly with Mad Men, Community, The US Office,
Comfort viewing.
Yeah, exactly. And it's something, I can loosely, the thing is, I haven't watched House of Cards in such a long time that I can sort of loosely remember where things go, but I can watch it and still be like, oh yeah, gosh, I forgot about this, or oh yeah, this happens. And yeah, it's great. I'm enjoying it.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's I know what you mean about the comfort thing, because I've been whilst I've been traveling around, I saved so much content to my phone. I've actually only just got through it all, but I had like tons of Star Trek saved, tons of podcasts saved, and something else which I'll get to in a second. And Star Trek is that for me, like The Next Generation, and also the Greatest Generation podcast. The fact that it is more Monster of the Week style programming, and because that's the thing about House of Cards, right, is that it is the broad, each episode fits into a broad series structure, and you can watch them in isolation, but you're missing out on something, really. Whereas something like Community, for example, or Star Trek, like just having something you can dip your toe in and having a self-contained episode is something that you don't see a lot of TV shows do these days, I don't think, but it's something that's really nice as comfort viewing. Oh, speaking of comfort viewing, I can't remember if it was you that was telling me about this. Pixel Girl and I last night watched Stanley Tucci's eating his way through Italy. Have you watched this?
I have seen this, yeah.
And we got half an hour in to the first episode, and Pixel Girl got her laptop out and was looking up how to change our travel plans so that we could go to Italy instead of Spain.
Yeah.
Like, if people haven't seen the show we're talking about here, it's a CNN production, but it's on BBC iPlayer. It is the most mouth-watering TV food show I think I've ever seen.
And he's such an endearing presence, isn't he? I really, really admire Stanley Tucci, not only in his sort of, obviously his film performances, but just as a person. He's an incredibly sartorial man, which always ranks highly in my book. But also genuinely interested. Great narration voice. Yeah, really, really good. But also really, really fascinated and interested in food and drink, and gets involved. He's a sort of cook himself. I really want to get his cookbook, the most recent one. I will say that if you're used to watching food TV, and the one that Pixel Girl and I like in particular is Rick Stein, he isn't, and by this I mean Stanley Tucci, isn't the most descriptive when it comes to scents and flavors. No. Quite frequently in the show, there's this amazing cinematography of, these lemons have grown here on the cliffs outside Naples or whatever it is, and this is the flavors, and they meet this chef who made this a particular dish and sort of talks about the history, and then Stanley Tucci will have it and goes, "Oh, it's really nice." Yeah. And that's about all you get. Yeah. But I sort of like that, because that's exactly the kind of response that he's trying to elicit in people. He's basically saying that you need to come here, you need to try this food, and you just need to be bowled over by it, and your reaction needs to be just, oh my goodness, this is great. It's great food. And speaking of being bowled over, just to close out this section, I'm a professional with this segue, Dan. The other thing which I had downloaded on my phone and I wanted to mention in Critics Corner is Arcane, which I believe we have had recommended to us in an email, or it might have just been on the Discord. But this is the League of Legends animated series that's on Netflix. And I was absolutely bowled over by the show. I'm 3 episodes in, and which is like the end of the first arc. I think there's 9 episodes in total. And it's you might hear League of Legends and animation, and you think, okay, great, it's not going to be
that already doesn't sound like my thing.
Sure.
I knew nothing about the background or the characters before starting the show, and within the opening sequence of the first episode, which is perhaps 2 minutes long, I was invested. I cared about these characters. The thing that really sells it, I mean, the storytelling is great, and the voice acting is really good, actually. But the thing that really sells it is the animation. It is into the Spider-Verse level of quality. And I don't say that lightly. I mean, this is one of the most extraordinary styles and art direction I've ever seen on an animated show.
Yeah.
It's really, and I know that it's going to be going up for a bunch of awards, I think, in this next awards season, and I hope it wins a lot of them. If people haven't seen it and you're on the fence, I would highly, highly encourage you to watch at least the first episode.
I think I need to do that. I've sort of disregarded it because I used to, and occasionally do now. Certainly, any stream of Pyrian's, I'm sort of I watch his live streams quite a lot. I sort of treat his live streams like a podcast. So I watch quite a lot of Dota 2 when he's playing it, and as a result, even prior to that, back when I was at school, I had some friends that would play video games, and there was a portion that would play League of Legends and a portion that would play Dota or Dota 2, and I was very much in the Dota camp, and I've just never really fully got on board with League of Legends, but I've heard such great things about this animation. I ought to give it a go, really.
I'd give the first episode a go, honestly. Like it's set in. So I knew nothing about the setting, actually. It's a steampunky fantasy sort of world, and there's sort of an overworld and an underworld of sort of respectable rich citizens, quite a type thing, and then a seedy underbelly of kind of criminals just getting by. And there was clearly some big social divide, some kind of war that happened in the past between the two, and. It's just good. I think the best that I can say is you've got to see it with your own eyes. It's a bit like The Matrix. It cannot be described. You just got to see it for yourself. And I would highly, highly encourage people to check it out. The third episode, after a 3-episode arc, genuinely knocked the wind out of me. I was like, it actually affected me in the course of 3 episodes, developing these characters, and the emotion that they get out of this animation style is unreal. I cannot recommend it highly enough.
Oh, okay.
You know what else I can't recommend highly enough, Dan?
What?
People supporting us on Patreon.
Oh, God, tell you what, we're slick, aren't we?
Top lad!
So, as Simon mentioned with that incredibly slick, professional segue, we find ourselves in Patreon Corner. Patreon Corner is the time in the podcast where we get to say an enormous thank you to those who support us on Patreon. That's patreon.com/the wikicast. There we go. See, look, he's on it. He's already on it. He beat me to it. Without Patreon and without our sort of patron support, this podcast couldn't exist. We couldn't pay our editor. We couldn't pay for our hosting. We couldn't do loads of things. We couldn't do our brief merch run, and I'm sure we'll be making a return to that at some point when we're maybe both a little less busy. But yeah, we just want to use this opportunity to say thank you to those who support us. If you're interested in doing so, you can head over to patreon.com/the wikicast. You can choose, and it's quite a big decision, isn't it, Simon? Top dog.
Oh, it really is.
Top cat, and the respective churches they're in. Clark-Catholicism or Mormonism. I'm the sort of the figurehead at the front of the ship for Team Dog, and the top dogs get a shout out, and I'd like to do that now. So, without further ado, I'd like to say an enormous thank you to Jay Wright, Peter Reed, Kodzo, Colin J. Brown, Alistair Fortune, Eve Sharples, Lexi at front desk, Hasse Hansen, Aaron Jorgensen, Henry VII, King of England and of France, Lord of Ireland, Naflarok, Andrian with an N, Chan, Ben Caples, Josh Chiaga, Martin Narciso, Christian from the Alps, Amy Bonney, and Lexi at front desk's boss.
Still love that username.
It's brilliant.
Whereas I would like to thank the top cats, and I was hanging out with a top cat just yesterday. I was hanging out with my parents' lovely cat Edna, who has had an operation, so she's only got one eye now. but she's the loudest purr I've ever heard on a cat. It's literally like you're operating a chainsaw. Like it's astonishing how loudly the cat purrs. She's a little wee thing as well. She's like, just over a foot long, but wow, packs a punch. Anyway, packing a financial punch are EZ, Abu El Ella, the physics boy, Bendant, Choco Cat, Cole Mansfield, Dame Valerie III, Dan Hanvey, Isabella Strowski, Izzy CC, Jack Easton, Layla Medina, Matt Maguire, Nafi Iftikhar, Oliver Burkhart, Omar Miranda, Princess Andromeda, Rents Kirk, Simon P, Will Janice Humphreys, Andy Hartley, Lewis Watson, and Nathan Flaherty. Thank you very much to our top cat and top dog patrons. You make the show possible. Top lad! Well done. We've burst through the wall of Correspondence Corner, much like you burst through the walls of Southwark Cathedral.
Yes.
just to have a look. Oh, this is nice in here. And I have an email here from Christian, which reads, Conversation Corner material. Dear favourite non-tent providers, I'm writing this 3 days into my self-isolation after contracting the you-know-what 19. Parentheses, all work and no play makes Jack a dull boy. Yeah. Oh, God.
Oh, gosh.
Oh, no.
It can't be that bad, can it?
As a long-time reader, I finally found the right subjects to write in about. First of all, I want to thank you guys both for providing us with this entertaining nonsense. The Wikicast has been a steady companion for a long time now, and I'm always excited when a new episode is released.
Hurrah.
But also, Simon's vlog series has had a great impact on my life, since it rekindled my motivation to continue studying right when I thought I was not made for it. So, 5 years ago, I decided to change my subject to computer science, moved to a new city, and honestly, it's been one of the best decisions I've ever made. Thank you for the nudge. Of course, these videos would never have been as entertaining as they were without you, Dan.
Oh, that's kind.
I was showing Emily Bates and Sharmony from the RP Geeks the beer mile
Very
that we
good.
did. And the comments that they were saying was, oh, Dan is good at this. He's really good. Like, the star of the show, Dan.
What fun.
It's a great commentary. It's the cutaway that I put in of whilst we're running around, like me and Hugo and Corin, all on our first lap, and it just cuts to you explaining with this microphone in your hand to the passers-by, going, "It's a beer mile."
Yeah.
Like, as if that explained everything.
Yeah. Oh, right. One of those. Yeah, fine.
Yep. As you were. And secondly, this is going back to Christian's email. And secondly, this is the Wikicast. Therefore, I feel obliged to share a small gem of an article from my hometown in Germany, Kempten. There's an article here. Oh, it's only in German, but it's automatically translating from German into English. It's Großes Loch, which is big hole. Sadly, this article is only in German, but here it goes. Its title is Großes Loch, which means Great Hole, and concerns itself with a 15-year-old construction site in Kempten. It was planned to be a multi-purpose building, but after some shady stuff and beef with locals happened, the developers eventually went bankrupt, just after excavating a 37-metre deep hole of an area as big as the final building. Now, with nobody wanting to pay for filling it up again, it has remained in this state until today, filled up with groundwater and a constant threat to surrounding buildings. Residents lovingly call it names like the Hole of Shame, I've got one of them myself, Swimming Pool, or the first inner city quarry lake.
Very good.
No remarkable progress has been made for years, so I guess this situation will continue for quite some time. All in all, this article just seems like trolls mocking the city, but it is legitimate.
It's amazing.
Wow. The situation is so bad that actually people just troll, and it's kind of what everyone thinks anyway. Wow, it does just look like I'm looking at the pictures, and it's a very pleasant-looking German town with just a big hole.
Yeah.
That's full of green water. It looks like the swimming pool in the Rio Olympics. That's the best summary I can give.
Amazing.
I'll include a link in the show notes. Anyhow, that's it, and thanks again for all your time and effort. Christian Bayer, aka Christian from the Alps.
Very good.
Aged, oh my god, 331 903rds.
Excellent.
331 over 903 Benjamin D. Santers at the time of writing. Who's Benjamin D. Santa?
Father Christmas?
Oh, he's a climate researcher at Lawrence Livermore. Is this a reference that I've forgotten?
I don't know. This could be a deep dive here. He hasn't ever featured as an article in his own right, has he? In a previous episode?
He's clearly a very high up climate scientist, and he worked on an AR2.
Well, you should know him then. I'm excused.
Yeah, I should know all of them.
I mean, that's your bit. That's what you do.
Yeah, you do all of law. You know all the lawyers.
Yeah.
From Jeff Winger to Ruth Bader Ginsburg, and I know every climate scientist. P.S. There's also a postscript here, Dan. Christian's favourite album as a teenager was probably Stadtaffe by Peter Fox, but he was/is only famous in Germany. Well, not anymore. The dozens of people around the world now know about Stadtaffe. I hope you're happy.
Brilliant. We have another email here from Lexi at Front Desk, which is very exciting. And it
Watch out for your boss.
Dear, my dearest Mork and Clark. Long-time reader.
Mork Clark.
Long-time reader, first-time writer here to tell you all about the albums of my youth.
Hey!
Thank you for answering the call. But first, I'll let you know that you've saved me from many hours of boredom in the office over the past 3 and a bit years, and I've been reading this treasure trove of an omnibus. Originally, I downloaded 7 of your episodes from Podbeam onto my MP3 player so I could listen to the pod at work, no phones allowed. I never added any more, though, so they sat on repeat for months and months. Oh my goodness, you must have gone mad.
Good grief, yeah.
I then continued to catch up on past episodes outside of the office and finally joined the ranks of those who wait eagerly for that Spotify notification to ping up. In an odd turn of events, one of your episodes even got me through a stint of major, to me, surgery. I'm dreadful around hospitals, etc., so it was legitimately the worst experience of my life so far. But luckily, your voices nattering in my ears kept me both conscious and sane, so I can't thank you enough for that. Well, I'm glad that we could be of some help, some actual legitimate help.
Hopefully also the worst experience of your life. No, so far. Let's hope that's it. It's only better from here.
Totally. I know you came here eager to find out about the albums of my youth. I shall list them in as close to chronological as I can. Remember, starting from the grand old age of 13.
Oh God, I've got the email up.
Now, what continues here is a fairly extensive list of music, which is amazing. I'm going to go through these, but I'm not entirely sure we have time to read them all out. So I'm just going to pick some. We've got
some highlights.
Yeah, All Time Low, Nothing Personal. Metallica, Ride the Lightning. Motionless in White, Infamous. We Butter the Bread with Butter. Das Monsters aus dem Schrank.
Oh, if you look below, Dan, there's a list of just the very top ones.
Oh, perfect. Okay.
Lexi has summarised.
Amazing. See, look, this is exactly what we wanted. You probably wanted my top albums from my teams, though, didn't you? I'll cut it down to the 4 most influential albums. All Time Low, Nothing Personal. We Butter the Bread with Butter. Der Tag an dem wie Welt unterging. Excision, Codename X. And Frequencer's Medium Rare. Without those albums, I would have probably failed my multiple music courses and music A-levels. Don't let these albums fool you, though, as I'm an orchestrally trained double bass player and have been for about 13 years. However, my main listening of anything vaguely in the classical sphere is Dan's choral piece of the week. How interesting.
I have to admit, I'd not heard of, just looking through this list, an awful lot of these are completely new to me. Like, anyway, I know All Time Low, AC/DC, Metallica, Skrillex.
Yeah.
But a lot of these are, completely new. Human culture is fractal, Dan. It doesn't matter how deep you go, there are always more rabbit holes to go down.
Absolutely. Anyway, thank you for everything you boiks do on a bi-weekly basis, and I can't wait to watch you go to far-flung sausages and beer festivals, as well as whatever else you can find. Catch you at DEF CON 1 in the Netherlands for a complete departure from British culture. No? Okay then. Yours sincerely, Lexi at Front Desk, age .2375 QE.
Queen Elizabeth. Someone using the correct units.
Look at that. Fantastic. Top work there. That's why they're at the front desk.
Yeah, we put our best people up front. And then I have one more email here, Dan, and I think this is worth reading today. This is from Charlizard.
Brilliant.
Charlizard! The title is wikicast-themed dream, parentheses concise. This is going to be something, whatever it is. Dear Mrs. Clarkson and May, first off, love the show, obviously.
No one's ever done that.
Yeah, I like that.
That's so good. That's already fantastic.
After discovering it a mere 2 months ago, I have since made my way through 64 episodes from the back catalogue and am now listening to new ones as they come out. Good grief. Needless to say, the ways of the Wikicast have not only affected my waking self, I did definitely find myself slipping into a much posher Dan accent after listening to a few episodes in a row.
Fantastic. Well done.
But also my sleepy time as well. Whilst I find myself rather intrigued listening to other people's dreams and all the weird shit they get up to in their unconscious, totally judging them, I understand that most are bored by it. Thus, I will try to keep the following description of my wikicast-themed dream, or rather nightmare, as concise as possible. Here goes.
Oh, this is exciting.
I am walking through a churchyard with a load of other university students. As I enter the church, I see the inside is laid out like a primary school assembly hall, with small, coloured chairs laid out in rows across the entire space. As everyone files in, it is announced that we are there to perform a choir service for someone important. I look around the room in horror as I realise I am sitting right in the middle of the crowd, so everyone will be able to hear me sing. Parentheses, I'm a meek little bitch who can't sing for love nor money.
Fantastic. We like the honesty. Very good.
When suddenly a voice pipes up from behind me saying something along the lines of, "Don't worry, guys. I know what I'm doing. We just have to blah, 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 blah." What actually comes out of the person's mouth is a load of garbled words I can't understand. So, rolling my eyes with impatience, I turn my head to see what idiot is spouting this nonsense. It's Dan.
Thank you.
Thankfully, his blabbering is cut short by the church door slamming open, and in charging Albus f***ing Dumbledore.
Great.
He begins yelling about how the church is surrounded by zombies and that we need to secure the churchyard right now. We all rush outside to see hundreds of amorphous brown blob things, including some that look like Oogie Boogie from A Nightmare Before Christmas.
Oh, yeah.
Solid reference.
Yeah.
Slowly circling the building. As I stand with my mouth agape, I hear movement behind me and turn to see Dan and Dumbledore standing back to back, slowly moving in a circle and each holding a fiery staff. Woof. In front of them like a lightsaber, their hair billowing like some goddamn L'Oreal advert as winds whip about the two of them. Before I even have time to fully acknowledge this beautiful sight, I am suddenly whisked up into the air by some mysterious force. I manage to look up, only to see Dr. Simon Clark riding on the wings of some giant black half-bird, half-gargoyle creature who has grasped me in his claws. Simon urges the creature to fly 3 times around the church before soaring into the sky and commanding it to drop me to my death. Thanks for that, Simon.
Wow, that's amazing.
What? I don't... Wow, is this a first? Is this the first time we've had a Wikicast dream described to us?
I think it might be, and I love it.
I want more of this.
Yeah,
I don't know if we've ever infected anyone's brain quite to the extent that we've infected child lizards, but if you've ever had a Wikicast dream, I want to hear about it. This is great. Why am I riding a half bird, half gargoyle? You're a defender, whereas I'm just like, yeah, we're going to sacrifice this meek little bitch that can't sing. Wow. Anyway, Charles concludes the email. Anyways, I'll save you all the end of email brown nosing, but seriously, you guys are great and wonderful, and the Wikicast is truly a gift to the world. Much love to you both. Bella, she, her, age 25.6 recurring. Yes, I am a decimal heretic. F you, Simon.
Very good. That's fantastic. What a way to end Correspondence Corner.
What a way to end the show, Dan.
Yeah. So, Simon, what have we learnt today?
We've learned a lot more than we bargained for about people's dreams. And we also learned about short music for short people. A Short Ride in a Short Machine. By John Adams. By Fat Wreck Chords, which has just got this glorious track list of 101 artists who have put together really short songs. And it's great. That's it. Drop mic.
We also actually caught up on everything that's been happening between, us since the last episode, which has been a frankly ludicrous amount of stuff.
At least some of it.
Yeah.
It's been so much stuff to catch up on.
We spoke about our impromptu little meet-up in London, which is fun.
Yep, and our respective discoveries of different forms of media. I talked about Terry Pratchett and about Arcane, and you have been enjoying
Netflix stuff again, plus Stanley Tucci.
Just rewatching House of Cards.
Yeah.
And then we concluded with a really quite something there in Correspondence Corner. Thank you again, Charles.
And that's all for this episode. Don't forget to subscribe to us on your podcasting service of choice. Join the Discord, and if you'd like to see our faces, check out our YouTube channel, Spongy and Electric.
Wikicast-themed dreams, Netflix comfort viewing recommendations, and other thoughts on the show can be sent to us at spongyelectric@gmail.com. We'd love to hear from you.
Join us again for another tumble down the wiki rabbit hole. And we'll see you next time.
there's a non-zero possibility that someone's had a sex dream about the wikicast.
You know what? I imagine this is going to be open. This is going to open more fan fiction. The sordid little wretches who listen to this podcast are going to come creeping out, being like, "Oh, you want to hear about my dreams? Do you know? Oh, gosh, go away, go back, off you go, go on."
Look, you know the rule. If it doesn't involve sex and it doesn't involve me, I don't want to hear about it. Well, good for you, because it's got both.
Oh God, what is this?